try and this was the what I did earlier, talking about not drawing eyes. I'm not drawing noses, ears, or chins or mouths either, and so it's generally whatever I need to describe marks, shapes, tone, whatever. And I dug out one of these paintings that I did to explain exactly this idea of not drawing, using shapes and tones and basically describing things without having to draw it, specifically draw it, the typical way of drawing it. And everything I do is kind of like that. You can see, and there is this is similar to, many artists work like this anyway. It's just this preoccupation when it's drawing in specifically, when you sort of draw outlines around things and colour them in. And that was it. I just thought, this is just the way I do it. There are many people do it this way, but it takes away the pressure to think of it as a linear description, and then apply colour to it or apply tone to it. So I'm going to draw. I can find a bit of charcoal. I'm going to draw this lady in a hat. So hats at the thing at the moment. Let me make sure. Now, I've said this before about the. Let me just make sure this is the right height. When I did it this morning, I don't know if you saw that this morning. The first attempt at the this one. I talked about the height of the paper, the location of the paper, and it needs to be, for me, and the center of the paper needs to be at my eye level. So basically, the eye level is there, so I see that equally. There's a slight tilt backwards on it, but I'm okay. It's a little bit more tilted than I normally have it. But let me just, there you go. Yeah. I'm also fixing my stool, so that's which is not creaking as much. A little bit of a creak there. But anyway, so yeah. I was going to talk about talent. Somebody just said now about my. I don't have a structure, but it's just all about talent, basically. And it's one of those things, it's kind of not understanding the way this works. People do default, it's talent, it's a God-given, and it's all that sort of stuff. And it's not talent, and it's not God-given. It's certainly not God-given. It's basically what's between your ears that makes this happen. Not necessarily the knowledge thing. I don't really sort of mean that. But let me get this something like what I want it to be. I want to do the sort of the jacket down to a bust there, and do a shoulder there, and then off there like that. The idea that it's some kind of force. It's always been for me, it's always been a bit of an insult. Somebody says you're talented, 9 times out of 10, it's got, and the majority of people, it's going to be just hard work, repetitive hard work. That's how they get good at something. I don't think it strictly applies to this. The thing is that it's based around the enjoyment of doing it. So if like with anything, if you enjoy doing it, you like ice cream, you keep eating it, don't you? If you enjoy doing something, you'll always keep doing it. And the consequence of doing it regularly is that you get better at doing it. It's just one of those self-fulfilling things. But it's the reason why you enjoy doing it is the question. It's this. If you've got this perception that it's all about talent and it's all about, the traditional way of doing things, and it's a linear thing, I was talking about the drawing eyes this morning. If you've got all those kind of things as your you know, the way you view this, it's going to be hard. You know, it's going to be, you know, I guarantee it's going to be hard, and it's going to be a slog, and it may not work for you. And you'll be happy with small victories, you know, that kind. Oh, I've done this a bowl of flowers, and it's pants, you know what I mean? And but you're really chuffed because it's like at least you've made some progress. You know, I've done this bunny, you know, at least I've made some progress. So you become, you know, you're happy with small wins, and the only way you know it's a win is because you compare it to whatever somebody else is doing, you know. So it's it starts really with how you look at this. You know, if you're the kind of person that hasn't got a real understanding of this. I've just been watching the Portrait Artist of the Year thing, and wife said, we were talking about it, and I just said, it's a shame they just don't understand what it's about. I mean, there wouldn't be a program if they understood what it's about, because it's not. It's the idea of artists competing for me is a complete anathema. You know, it's sort of the wrong thing. But those artists that compete, somebody said to me the other day, and I was complaining about, they were running a similar sort of thing, and they said, well, they all know it's a competition. Of course they do. Of course they do. But that's not the point I'm trying to make. We all know it's a competition. But like I said to them, competitions are for athletes, not for artists. But anyway, so bit of a rant, but there you go. But the whole idea of doing this and why you do it, and what is it that you know, your reason in terms of outcome, if there is an outcome. I mean, I kind of don't have outcomes, and I discourage people from having outcomes. It is what it is. You know, it's your creative response to something, and it will manifest in however it manifests. That's it. It's just you just have to let it happen. The problem is that we don't understand. And if you think that it's a talent thing, and if you think it's a repetitive practice 1,000 times and drawing the nose and all that kind of thing, or it's anatomy, or what other knowledge you think is rooted, if you think it's all those things, then you'll never understand why you should do it any other way. It'll always be those things. And everybody, you know, people that criticize me, they're wedded to the tradition of painting and drawing, when really it is what it is, and it'll become what it'll become. And the idea that you would force it to become something it isn't, you know, i.e. you've got to develop these skills, these traditional skills. The idea of you've got to do it that way, for me, that's just everything that's wrong. You don't want to force whatever it is. It's a bit like forcing your kids to be doctors, you know, that kind of thing. When they don't want, they want to be musicians or ballet dancers, you know, and it's a bit like that. And you don't want that for your kids. You don't want them to be pressurized into becoming something they don't want to be. You want them to find their own joy and find their own, you know, their own destiny. Well, that creativity is a bit like that. So creativity is your child, if you like, that's been locked away. In my case, it was locked away for 30 years in a cupboard, right, screaming and shouting, and let me out. And I completely ignored it, because when I didn't let it out of the cupboard, I made it behave in a certain way. I made it behave like everybody else thinks it should behave. And again, that's a bad thing with your kids. You know, you don't want your kids to feel as though they've been pressurized to behave like other people's kids, just because other people's kids meet a criteria. You know, they're well behaved and they sit quietly in the corner and all that. You know, if your kids running around screaming and shouting, but having a great time and always happy, nothing wrong with that. But as I said, creativity is a bit like that. It's not a talent. If anything, if people might perceive it as a talent, it would be the fact that you are allowing your creativity to manifest purely. You know, it's a pure intention. That would seem like magic, because that's the bit that people don't understand. That's the bit that is you know, whether it's the people on these shows, the game shows, or whether it's academia, they don't understand this thing of just letting it fly, you know, letting getting the kite out and let it just fly in the sky and let it be whatever it'll be. I would imagine most artists understand that and relate to that because that's what they do. But unfortunately, most artists have to try and earn a living doing it, and consequently, they keep their kite on a short string, you know what I mean, and don't let it dance in the sky. So, but that's what you got to do if you're seriously about doing this. That's what you're going to do. You can't, because otherwise you're just going to be like somebody else, and it will be exactly the same as somebody else's work. Their response will be exactly the same as other people's, and there's no that you don't want that, do you? Who wants it to be exactly the same as someone else? I mean, I know people who don't understand will look at, say, a great artist and I want to draw or paint like them. But that, again, it's not, you know, I would discourage that all the time. I always say to people, if I teach people to draw, and I can teach people to draw within 3 months. I could teach you to paint portraits within 3 months, but I wouldn't teach you to paint like me. It wouldn't be about learning to paint like me or draw like me. It wouldn't be those things. It would be about you. It would always be about you. And that, again, is the hard thing. People have a perception of what it will be and a perception of how it will turn out, and it's usually based on someone else's work. In the case of a tutor, it would always be to do it like them. I mean, how many of those courses have you seen when it's always about doing it like the tutor? There's loads of it. You want to paint like this? No. Well, all right. And that's the problem. But it just perpetuates the whole, because the artists that teach like that are perpetuating there's a given way of doing it, and it's my way, funnily enough. And so I'm going to teach you to do it like me. And look how many there are. They're the same. They all look the same, don't they? The work looks the same. I'm not saying it's not good, because it is. It's wonderful, but it's still all the same. So why do you want to do it like somebody else? Why is what they do? I think it's probably because a lot of people don't know. It's like I'm saying about the talent thing. A lot of people would default to describing what I do as talent. But it's not. It's not. It's really having the right mindset is what it is. And a lot of it, I'm talking about it now, really, is the attitude and the practical things, which are dead easy to do. And I think the practical, and again, this is the confidence. Somebody said about confidence the other week, and I did a video about it. And the confidence thing comes from a don't give a damn thing. That's what it is. Because as long as I'm letting this thing out to play, it will play however it wants to play. So, and if it's not in line with somebody else's perception of how it should be playing, if your child is not playing like other kids play, so what? So what? That's it. It's because it's unique to you, and that's by letting your creativity be whatever it wants to be. Admittedly, you're in charge of it, but you're only loosely in charge. It's a bit like me holding the charcoal. It's only loosely in charge, because if I'm in full charge of it, I'm going to control it too much. It's going to be far too confined to my perception of what it should be, which is the typical thing is, I've got an outcome in mind of how this is going to work. I like so and so's drawing, so I'm going to draw like them. And all the time that you're drawing, you're thinking about those drawing. You're thinking about that goal and that aim to draw like this particular person. So every mark that you make will be judged. So you're never gonna be able to do anything, are you? Because you're too busy judging yourself in the midst of doing it. Forget about waiting until the end and deciding that you failed. You're going to be judging yourself all the time during the process of doing it, which is terrible. Absolutely. I mean, that was me. I never finished anything. I could never finish. I used to have this thing about I'd get halfway through a watercolor, and and I'd be scared to get like a hump. You know, I'd be scared to get to the next part about it because I thought it was going to the next mark it would fail. It wouldn't achieve whatever it was that I was aiming to do. And really, what all I was aiming to do was make it look realistic. I was trying to show off, and that that's one of those treadmills you can never get off. You know, the realism thing, the hyper realism, the detail thing. You can never get off that one because once you get to a particular level, you're always then looking at the person who's on the next level. It's a bit like computer games. You're always looking at the next level, and not really understanding why you're doing what you're doing, when really it's nothing to do with levels, and it's not even anything to do with continuous outcome, or similar outcomes. Because I draw and paint many things, and they all sort of turn out in different ways, which is exactly what I want. I don't want it to be. I can't. This is the thing about when I did this one. When I did this one, right, I found lots of images that look like that. Sorry, that light. Right, there's loads of them. I could be drawing women that look like that in that sort of somber pose all day long. I can't because I'd be bored. So I've got to find, like, this is a fantastic, dramatic, swashbuckling image, and it's a complete change. It's like a sorbet between your meal and your main course, or whatever, vice versa, and your pudding. So, but it's the allowing your creativity to respond in different ways. That's as it, however it manifests, and stimulating your creativity with the subjects that you choose. So it's not going stale, and it just ignites something within you. That's the thing. This is where the inspiration comes from. The inspiration comes from the subjects that you choose, nothing to do with other artists and their capabilities. But as I said, this whole idea of talent, which they're saying most of the time, I'm insulted when people say that I'm talented. I'm not talented. You look at what people might describe as talent, and there are some amazing people. I mean, even then I wouldn't call them talented. They just learned how to connect with their creative souls, and those that specialize, if you like, in the production side of things, have learned to produce, the technique stuff. Doesn't make them great artists. A bit like David Bailey said, just because you can paint doesn't mean say you're an artist. I love that. I absolutely love that. It takes somebody of David Bailey's significance to be able to say that and it be relevant. If I say it sounds daft, but David Bailey's a ledge. Well, he is for my generation anyway. So, but I'm doing the not drawing again, by the way, if you can see. I am going to start to tidy things up. One of the things about the charcoal, this particular charcoal, is this grainy thing that happens with the paper. I think it's partly the charcoal and partly the paper as well. So you're getting a kind of granular effect with it, and it's a little bit grubby. I think what it looks like. It does look, because of the grain. It does tend to look a little bit grubby, but I like that, and that gives it a certain aesthetic. It's not like a super smooth finish, and then there is texture within it, and And if it's not got a smooth finish, I'm like that. I don't want it to be photographic smooth, burnished and blended and all that kind of thing. I don't want it to be like that. I don't think it's got any character when it's like that. If that's the right word. Again, it's one a strange word to choose, but it is. It's more. It's more alive, I think, is probably what I'm trying to say. But not really for any particular reason other than it's just the way that the paper and the charcoal are working together. But I tell you what, it's got a touch of the if you look at a fetching, it's got that grubbiness about the fetching. Fetching's work has a grubby kind of smudgy, without literal smudges, feel about it. And if you look at it, I think every line that he used to create that effect was deliberate. Mine kind of not. None of it's. Some of it's deliberate, but most of it's not. It's just a consequence, and I'm going with it. I'm going with the flow. But like I say, what I do is more to do with the mindset than it is anything else. All the things that I do, the way of drawing, are things that have a consequence of my attitude. I've done it. Fundamentally, I love doing it, right? So that's the first point, and that then means I keep doing it. And because I keep doing it, I'm getting better at doing it. But the other part of the mindset impact is this thing of, and it's part of the medium as well that I use, is the not everything matters sort of thing. What is it that I am moved to paint or draw? What is it that for me makes this special? And because I do that, it means that I focus on drawing just what's important, what matters to me, and in a way that is expedient. This accuracy, efficiency, and economy thing. The Sargent thing. So that's mindset. That's just what that is. That's what makes that happen. And ultimately, then, because of that mindset, I develop skills. It's inevitable. But as I said, all of it is about having the right mindset. None of it's about keep doing this over and over again and you get really good at it. I'd never say that to anybody. I'd never say, you need to keep doing it. Practice, practice, practice. I'd never say that to anybody. But that's what you're going to get. That's what you're going to have. You're going to find. People will say that's how secret to all this practice. They'll say, no, it's not. It's not. The secret to all this is loving doing it. That's the secret. If you love doing it, you don't need to practice because you'll just keep doing it. And artists don't practice. They just keep doing it. Same thing, I know, but it's not really. I always think practice is one of those waste of time things. I'm thinking I'm got a sketchbook, drawing noses, whatever, and instead of doing that, I could actually be drawing something. So I have the same issues with things like grisaille. I know what they do those things for, but for me, that's doing the job twice. I know, again, this is not, and as I said this morning, this is not how it should be. So you just ignore whatever I say because I'm not an expert in this, and you shouldn't really listen to the rubbish that I come out with. But this is my way of doing it, and that's the point I'm trying to make. This is my way of doing it. And if I taught anybody anything, I would teach them to find their way of doing it. That's what it's about. I just got to get the shape of the head going a little bit, and she's a bit more striking, if you know what I mean, than I've got it. I'll fix it, but it's just creating like more striking pose, a bit more pout on the lips, and yeah. Got a definite jawline there. Well, it's not that dark, so I'll end up taking that out, I think. But not far off that. I can work with that. Tiny things up here and there, and yeah, not far off. A bit of evening out of the tones. Still the ear. I'm going to come back and make that ear a lot better, a better shape than this. Charcoal's not brilliant. It's not, this particular piece is not as good as it should be, but it's good enough for doing the, you know, the thick curls, the thick, doing this sort of thing. I'll come back and sort out the refinements, the face and the ears. But yeah. So the density of all this is quite critical, but it's going to be, because this won't go that dark. This is about as dark as it's going to go. So, and I can create a bit more depth or a bit more density by alternate marks. So you're going to get, you know what I mean, see that. But from that, I've got that. This is my my limit, if you like, the limit of the charcoal. So from that, I've got to then work back from that. I can't, if it won't make anything darker than that, everything else has to fall in line with that, you know, sort of prorate. It's the relationships with the tones, basically. So okay, I can work on that. Yeah, so as I said, the face is, without the refinement, is roughly where it needs to be. I've got an issue with some of the position of things, and the slight need for things to be just a little bit sharper. But it's more or less there. Not going to try and draw too much with that. It's not going to be possible, I don't think. Not with this charcoal, but there's a nice. That's not good. That's the downside to this charcoal as well. The clumping. If I'm not careful, I can end up with clumps with this stuff, and I don't have to touch it, and it'll suddenly become really dark, and just got to fix that. Let me see if I've got a better piece that's a little bit sharper. This might be all right, actually. So let's say with the other, not this morning's, because that was not really a mega production thing, but let's say yesterday's, the one I showed you to start with, there isn't a a path that I would take with it. And the one before that, if you saw the one before that, which was similar kind of thing, you know, a woman in a black t-shirt. That one was a lot more work than that one yesterday, which was just really was. I started on what day was it? Saturday. I think I filmed it actually, and then finished it off yesterday. And so that was quite a detailed thing, and it basically it's managing the tones and the lightness of all the tones, you know, the light application of the tones, in order just to give it more form, and that's basically what it is. But it is, for me, it's always about the balance of those tones. It's never really about replication, because this stuff won't replicate tones as you'd expect. So you want it to be, I want it to be dark, i.e. there. This stuff won't do it. So I've got to settle for what it will do, and that's basically I have to manipulate things to find the actual balance, to find the you know, the relationships between the tones. But it's only observation. It's not, as I said the other day, the value thing. It values, drawing eyes, whatever it is. It's all observation. That's all it is. But it's proper observation. It's not just observation that's based on knowledge. That is always going to be hard. That first of all, you've got to learn the stuff. Then you've got to regurgitate it, and then you're regurgitating it and trying to make what you see fit what you're regurgitating. And it's like, why? Why not just draw it? Why not make marks that, all right, they might not be perfect marks. They might be exactly in the right place, but who cares? And that's probably another one of those mindset things. You know, you've got to be careful what you care about, really. Isn't that true in life? But that's the thing. It's not everything that you do with this. Not everything you do with this is important. You know, which is this hierarchy of importance when you capture the face. You know, is it the eyes? Is it the hair? What is it that makes it special? And that's where you want to concentrate on, not on the every detail on every button on a tunic. You know, because those things don't matter, do they? Great artists know that. You'll see, you know, the brevity of mark making in some great portrait artists. Contemporary as well. You know, there are some that can actually really do it. But there are some that just think it's about being able to copy every minute detail, and that to me is not what it's about. It is to them, obviously, but to me it's not. So, as you can see, this is going the right way. I'm going to play with the intricacies of the tones. You know how it's kind of developing, and it's got very subtle tones. One of the things about that, the one I did yesterday, was that I went through a stage when I did the one before it. It was done with charcoal pencils, so you have a kind of a density issue. You know, you're already committed to sharp densities, you know, with a charcoal pencil. With this, it's so subtle that, and it's good because of that. I like it because of that. It's delicate, and when it's a subject like this, you kind of want it to be like that. No, you want it to be delicate and subtle. But that you can underestimate. You see, the thing about charcoal is because of this, you can see that, and I did it on that girl with the afro hair the other day, which you saw. That was Sunday's lesson, I think. Because there is this hidden undulation, hidden density within the darks, and the subtlety within those. It's the same with the grey, the lighter tones. I can't say mid tones because everything's there. We've got mid tones, dark tones, and lights and everything going on in that. So it's the same, but it's all these delicate things. This is when going back to the quality of your charcoal really is important. So you want charcoal that will make marks just simply by letting it drift across the surface, and you'll not see. Half the time you won't even see the charcoal that's being applied, and it's a very fine. It's like glazing in a way with charcoal, and that's kind of what you want with certainly with something like this, because I don't want to get into blending and using stumps and all the rest of it. Whatever those things are called, those they're not called stumps, are they? Whatever they call those things, those blending things, bits of paper. I don't want to get into doing that. I want to use marks. I want to use the actual charcoal to create these subtle changes and variations in tones. The thing about hats as well, a lot of people have problems with hats, and because of the shape of them. I probably did it too quickly when I was doing this, and that's the the result of doing it thousands of times. But it's like with anything that's circular or a form in relation to something else. You have to check. You have to, when you're drawing something, when I'm making marks there, I'm checking that distance. When I make a mark there, I'm checking that distance. When I make a mark there, I'm checking that distance, and so on and so forth. So basically that's what you're doing when you're drawing something like a hat. You're checking the distance from the hub, if you like. If a forehead is the hub of the hat, you're checking the distance as you're drawing it. And it gets to be, like I said, it's a habit for me to do that now. But it will get to be a habit as you do it more often. So drawing anything around something else, whether it be the halo or whatever, you would be doing that. You would be checking the distances to make sure that it's the right distance from. But bearing in mind that, and I said this before about, does the hat or the hair fit over the head? Does it look like the head would fit under the hat? When really that kind of consideration is a little bit too complicated. All you're looking at is drawing the shapes that you see and the relationships between those shapes, whether it be physical in terms of location or whether it be their tonal relationships. So, but all that stuff, that's not talent. This is just me figuring it out, and I'm telling you how I figured it out, so you can do it the same. But get that out of the way, so that you can actually just let yourself respond to something, as opposed to getting yourself all in a tizzy because you can't get the head quite the right shape, the hat right shape or whatever. It's you've got to get that out of the way. Use some mechanical, like I say, think of it as distances from, an orbit around, or around, spokes from a hub, whatever. Think of that and get that out of the way. That'll just, like the dots, it'll just get you in a position where you can just let your creativity take over. So your creative response is the thing that should be driving it. All the technical stuff that you've adopted without getting into the usual sort of technical stuff, all that is just to help you manifest your creative response. That's all it is, and then it'll be whatever it'll be. And more often than not, my response is unique to whatever the subject is. I mean, there are things that I do that are similar in everything I do, and I can't help that. I think one of the things about the habit thing is that you get into mark making habits. My biggest habit, I think, and it's a relevant one, is the continuous multi-directional shading thing, which is a hang-up from when I worked as a visualizer using magic markers, because magic markers used to bleed because they were spirit-based. So it's like the paint and decorating, or the infinity loop thing. It's that's my good bad habit. I don't really have, hopefully, too many other mark making habits, because that's another thing I try to avoid. I don't want it to become a style. I don't want a style, because I'll end up getting lazy and just adopting the style for everything, and not really having anything unique to say every time. I try and respond. I think you can probably tell that I don't have a style, because I'm looking at everything all the time. It's definitely a glance. It's not a deep study, and then I go away and draw it. I don't really think that will work for me. I have to be glancing at the subject all the time. It's the only way I can get things in the right place. I can't get them in the right place if I don't keep glancing. I don't have the sustained attention. The people can stare at something and go away and recall that. I can't do that. It's just not in me to do that. Like I said before, I have problems doing that with hair. Returning to hair and drawing where I left off, and I'm not good at that either. So anyway, you kind of get. I recognize all these things, so you kind of get used to working with them and exploiting them. I've for years, the fact that I couldn't draw from memory was an embarrassment almost. Other people could do it, why can't I do it? But I ain't bothered now. It's just the way it is for me. That's cool. That's, again, one of those things you've got to recognize your own reasoning and your own creativity and how it manifests. You've got to recognize it, but you've got to let it be. Don't try and make it like somebody else's. So I was going to talk about hats, but it seems I'm ranting a little bit because of what the lady said about I'm talented, but I have no structure. Which, as I said, I found a bit insulting, but she wants to know. It's just how I am. It's to most people that's would be a what's the name? I can't think of the word now. It's gone. It would be a compliment. But I don't know. I say it's a funny thing doing this. I just watched I caught the back end of the game show, as I say, the portrait artist thing, and I look at it and I think, that's not me. Why am I not like that? What's wrong with me? It just doesn't seem to embody what I'm about, which is crazy. I'm not. It's not them. It's me. I don't know why I'm like that. People have asked me to, so you should do it, and I've got friends who have done it, but it's just not. It's not the right thing. But I don't know. I really don't know why I'm like that about it. Yeah, it's all the things that you say. It's all the, pretentious and everything else, and the wrong people win and all that sort of thing. It's all of that. But that's not why I don't like it. I don't like it because it somehow turns us, the artist, into entertainers. And I'm not sure that's what I do. I'm not really an entertainer. I mean, I do these and I do demos every now and again, and but they're all, it's just me sharing. It's not me entertaining, and that's part of the problem. It's the reason why I don't get many views, because I'm not trying to entertain people. I'm just trying to share my views on this, and I don't think that's what YouTube wants people to do. It doesn't want them to be that kind of serious about it. I mean, I'm not. It's not a serious thing. It's just that I think the big thing for me, and I did it in the I talked about it in the podcast last week. It was, firstly, I want people to experience the joy of doing this, but and then secondly, I just want to share what it is that I've gone through and how I've come to this place, rightly or wrongly. Whether or not the outcomes are the best things in sliced bread is kind of irrelevant. But I just want people to enjoy doing it. And as I said, the technical side of things, the actual being able to get the eyes in the right place, those things are dead easy. And I could teach you those in 3 months. Not a problem. But it's much more than getting the eyes in the right place. That's the thing. That's what it's about. And that, I suppose the show is like that. It does. They do talk about things like that, but it's just, my big problem is that they're all great artists on there. Every one of them are great artists, and that, it doesn't sit well with me that some are being considered to be better than others. It's not something that, as an artist, I don't want to think of being better than someone else or for them to be better than me. I don't want to think about that. It's just it's not good. But it goes back to the your perception of what this is about. You might think that it has to meet a criteria, and that criteria might be a judge criteria of some kind. It's detailed, it's technically proficient, or whatever it is that you use as a yardstick. All those criteria might be locked within your conditioning. So from the get-go, you're on a sticky wicket straight away. You're not gonna. You've got to battle against all of that before you can find your own soul. And it's a bit like Kristalina on that podcast. She was talking about, I had a second chance, if you like, after the cancer. And I don't know whether or not it's that makes me feel so passionate about it being purely creative and purely for me, and people should experience the joy of doing it. I don't know whether or not it's that spurred me on to be more determined to share. I don't know. I mean, I do it every day because I love doing it. That's why I do it, and I share every day because I want to share every day, because I'm doing it. As I said before, when I went through the phase of, and it's still the case now, but nobody watches these, and my mate said, "Well, just keep doing them. You're doing them anyway, so just keep doing them," and that's what I do. But if it helps one person, I got some lovely comments about the podcast, and it was touching. You know what I mean? It was like, I know that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to help people to find their creative soul. But it's still, when somebody says that's the case, that's what's happened, it's really touching. I said to this person, it just made my day, that just by saying that. I don't want to be anybody's inspiration, by the way. That's not what I'm trying to do. I don't want to inspire people. I want to help people to do this. You can find your own inspiration. That's not, as far as I'm concerned, not my purpose. But it's now, talking about technical considerations, this collar, this fabric, has a leaf brocade on it, right? So I ain't going to draw a leaf brocade on there. What I'm going to do is probably, and I'm thinking about it in terms of a practical thing, is that I'm going to, let me get the thing looking right a minute. I'm going to take it out with a rubber. So let me get it dense enough. That's the next thing. Get it dense enough to be able to carve out with the rubber the pattern that's there. That's the thing. So if I can just get that working right, I'll be able to do it. I think. I don't know. It looks about right. The face still needs a bit more tweaking. There's like the bustier thing that is there, and then the frills around the side there, and then it comes up like there. Let me just get this, otherwise I'm not naff. And yeah, there's a little one there, and then there's a bigger one there, and then it goes round like that. Okay. Yeah. So this is the the pattern that's down the side of there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it with a rubber to start with. See, the rubber will take it off. It might take it off. It might, because it's only like dots and dashes, to create some kind of floral effect. And then I'm going to come back to it with the charcoal again, just to make things darker around the edges. There's the I'm going to make this as dark as I can get it now before I start taking away, because I'll end up where it's going to spoil what I've done. Yeah, I think it'll do it. And it's one of those things you got to experiment with this kind of stuff. I mean, I just wouldn't be up for drawing it, doing the intricate things. I just want to make it look something like it's what's the name? It's imply and suggest. That's all it is. It's just to get that pattern. I don't need it to be exactly what it is. I'm just going to get the impression of what it is. I don't think it's quite there. I think there has to be some more density in between everything, but it's got the makings. It's one of those things where you can go on and on and on, and because it's not a highly detailed thing, so it's not critical. It's exactly right. I'm going to get that darkening on there because there is a kind of shoulder floral thing going off there. But I'll Yeah, I don't know if you've seen it, but I did a. It was a woman in a brigade like soldier outfit on the collar. The brigade was on the collar of it, and which is not unlike this. It's probably a little bit more detailed than this. And I remember at the time thinking that it was just, I need to make an impression, not I don't need to draw it perfectly, just make the impression of what it looks like. And that it worked really well. And I look back at it now, and it looks like this is working now. It looks like it's supposed to, it is a brocade collar. But I think if you don't try too hard with that kind of thing, then in terms of it's got to be perfect. I think you're more likely to succeed with it. Yeah, I'm probably going to do the this shoulder, but not that one. There's not much. You can just see it down there. There's something grey there, and then there's something dark there. And that's about it. But I'm probably going to just make this a little bit darker down here, and then leave the collar. I'm going to come back and make this a little bit more tighter, density-wise, really. Not really accurate drawing and stuff. I just want to get the I did thinking about his collar there. I did I don't even seen it. It was one of the demos. It was Sunday morning thing that I did. It's quite a while ago now. There's so many videos up there, up here, YouTube. But I drew this rock biker guy, and his jacket was, but it worked so right because I wasn't really trying to make it anything other than just a bunch of tones and lines and highlights and things, and it worked really well. Yeah, I think this will work. It's just a case of a bit of gentle teasing, a little bit too much there. The shoulder's probably more. It's about right, I think, there, but it just seems a little bit long. That's all, this bit here. But it might be the density of things. This is looking very. Yeah. And this piece of charcoal is not particularly good for this. It's probably better for the finer stuff on the face. I think that's about it, really. Apart from there's the tweaking and whatever, but I'll put it on the socials. You can see what how it turned out. Get rid of the highlight that's there. There's also not much of a highlight anywhere really on this part of the face. Better. Yeah, just I'm going to just gently tweak the tones, increasing the densities and making them more even in places, and usual sort of things. Yeah, right, done. So YouTube has managed to stay alive longer than it has done for a while. Thank you, YouTube. Yeah, so I'm going to even things out and just tweak a few things, and yeah, I'm going to make that a little bit more less patchy. You know how this is patchy because the charcoal's not really doing much good. You can see, but kill the edges because it's not a highlight. This is not a highlight. It's not, it's just a slightly lighter tone. So kill the edges a bit, starts to work a bit better. Even then, it's still too. This is what I'm saying about this charcoal. And any charcoal really, there is a depth. You need to exploit that depth. Yeah. Right. Okay. I love you and leave you, and I'll catch you in the morning. When this will probably be finished in the morning, and you'll see how it's worked out.